Welcome into Community Forum, and it's our regular, we're doing this about bi-monthly now, Community Forum with Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow from Healing of the Heart Ministries, a ministry of reconciliation. Chuck and Dee Dee, good morning. I hope you're someplace warm.
Good morning.
Good morning, Greg.
We are thankful for furnaces that work when it's 17 degrees outside for sure.
17? Wow.
That's
Amen.
what it is. Yep, that's what it is. So anyway, Chuck and Dee Dee are the heart and soul of Healing of the Heart Ministries, a ministry of reconciliation. And, of course, they do all kinds of counseling. I dare say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that your focus is on marriages and healing marriages. And today we thought we would talk about practicing spiritual formation in your marriage. And it's kind of a broad topic. So where do we start?
Where do we start? Well, Greg, it helps if you're both on the, relatively on the same page spiritually. And that you both want to practice your faith.
Or at least have the same desire.
In your life.
Yeah.
And in your family and in your relationship with your spouse. I'll tell you one thing, and of course if you're not there, we help get people there. So, getting help for your...
We got to get ourselves there, too,
yes,
we dear.
Yes, we did.
We're still working on it at times, yeah.
We were both born again, 40-some years ago, but about a year apart. I was born again first, and then my husband about a year after that.
Now, were you married at the time that this happened? Or
yes,
okay.
We were already married.
I thought she'd gone crazy.
I was pregnant with our first child, and I knew I needed help. I cannot do this. And I wanted to have a really close family. I wanted to, just do things right and be as peaceful and as happy as we could be. And so, yes, God has been faithful. I would say that, when you first know the Lord, though, you start off as a baby and you don't know exactly what you're doing. So, kind of looking to the Lord and looking to other people, other spiritual leaders for help. So we did go through a lot of things, and we're discipled in a way along with our children as they were growing up. So it was a wonderful journey, but for a long time, our spiritual zeal did not match, and so that was a little bit of a difficulty because I think when that happens, you so want your spouse to be experiencing all of the joy in the Lord, and you want someone to share those spiritual high points, spiritual low points with, and if you're not in sync that way, it can be a little more difficult, and in learning how to navigate that. And so for a long time, that was us until we started getting help, and really the Lord started answering so many of my prayers. I prayed for many, many years that would be so, that the Lord would make us one. We had mentors when we first came to Christ, and they told us, pray that God will make you one. And I, not really knowing totally what that meant, I started praying that, and it was probably 21 years later when that actually happened. And so don't give up if your spouse isn't on the same page. And your spiritual formation may look a little different because of that, or if your husband or wife is not a believer, it's going to look a little different also. But you still can be growing in the Lord, have joy in the Lord, and all those things, even in those situations.
We're talking to Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow from Healing of the Heart Ministries about practicing spiritual formation in your marriage. And let me ask you this, because it's kind of a stereotype, but I would have to say empirically, inductively, from my own experience, very often the wife and mom is further down the road than the husband. And I will go one further with the stereotype, quote unquote, that once the husband is on board, it seems like the family sort of follows that. Has that been your experience, or am I off base?
Oh no, that's a wonderful insight there, and we have found that to be true in many cases.
We have to be careful, though, that maybe even though the husband may not verbalize it all the time, that doesn't mean he's not really thinking about it and working on it. Because I am quiet, and I might not say, oh, let's, and granted, we are kind of busy, so it may not seem like I'm taking the time to do those things, but that doesn't mean I'm not praying about things and working on it a lot.
Right, and the response of the wife in those cases makes a huge difference, too. If she's pressuring or putting the other spouse down because they're not in this place that they think they are, well, those aren't necessarily godly responses either, and may not help the situation. But it is something that is desirable. You really want that, and so I understand that. But many times the man is, and women are working full time too now, and they have children, and there's so many dynamics going on, and the busyness can hinder much of this too. In our case, I think we were homeschooling our children, so I was home with the children. Well, I had opportunity that perhaps my husband didn't quite have, even though we were very involved in church together. We loved that. We were, working together in church. We were learning together in church. We went to just about every seminar, everything that came up. And, but, yes, he was quieter than I was, but probably at certain times in our marriage actually living that out better than I was, even though I was praying and in the Word more. So, there's just, every family has their dynamics that have to be worked through to get to the place where God wants them to be.
Chuck, what does spiritual leadership, we know that since the fall in the Garden of Eden, that the Lord put the husband, not men, okay, I'm not saying that you can't have a woman boss. I've had good women who are my boss, but within the family, the husband is accountable for that family. What does that look like for a husband and a father to take spiritual leadership, even though we know, and secular researchers will tell you, women are much more verbal. That's not a real big surprise to most of us. Women just are better communicators, I think, and use a lot more words. But Chuck, what does it look like for a husband and father to fulfill his role as a spiritual patriarch of the family?
Well, for me, it's really, so a lot of it's humbling myself and being willing to say that I was wrong or that I was thinking about stuff or I don't have the answer. When we face issues in life with as a couple and there's disagreements about things, or we're having trials outside or things there's things that happen that are a direct result of the decisions that we make, or sometimes of course the things that happen that are out of our control. But it's to try and lead the family along, that it's going to be okay, that God is leading us, and to seek Him first, and then say, okay, what's God doing? What does He want us to do in our lives? I know that thinking about this, that I don't have the answers all the time to a lot of things, so I have to get it from the Lord and say, what about the spiritual formation in life? It is probably true that I need to be the one that says, okay, let's get up and let's go to church, let's be involved in things spiritually, when and make that as an example to my children, to see that it's not just all mom saying we need to do these things, because they're going to sense right away it's mom and not dad. And also, for years we did devotions at home, and it would be my like my little job to get up in the morning and let's say, okay, let's do the devotions with the kids and show them that Dad's also got a big part in playing in this. The other thing, too, that when couples that we work with a lot, when they're resolving a conflict, it's how do we go about resolving any kind of a conflict in our home? Can we sit down and really talk about it and work on the answers together? So me, as a leader, I'm not, and I notice that I'm not necessarily coming up with the answer right away, but I'm leading in the idea like we're going to look for the answer, that there is an answer out there, even if we don't see one, and it's going to be good. It's going to be a good answer. And that the Lord is going to bless us in this thing. So it's not like I'm leading us down a road where destruction or futility or something like that.
Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow are my guests. Mondays with Chuck and Dee Dee, Healing of the Heart Ministries. And we're talking about practicing spiritual formation in your marriage. Let me ask you this question. And I love the church. I love the church. And I love my local church. So I don't want to pick on pastors or churches, but I would like an honest answer from both of you, Dee Dee and then Chuck. How are the local churches doing in helping couples and families practice spiritual formation?
Well, of course, it depends on the church and what their emphasis is. I think churches have, different callings under God, under His leading. So it kind of depends on the church. I think, just this last weekend, we did a Love Marriage for Life seminar, conference, retreat, kind of whatever you want to call it. We call it Love Marriage for Life. And we had about 50 people there, couples, and that's a way that a church can really impact homes, families, marriages. Young people were there. It was so exciting that so many young people were so receptive to learning God's will and God's way for their marriage, for their love relationship together, and all of that. So I think that probably many churches are trying. I know our church had, in years past, they would have Sunday school classes on, marriage, family, and raising children, and the attendance was great. So people are really looking for answers in this area, and it's not so much in all the activities that you do, all of the fun things that you do in your church, all of the programs that you have going on. There should be good examples there, grounded teaching there, but also teaching and how do we practically work this out? How can we make this happen in our families in ways that are effective?
Chuck, what do you think? How do you feel that? Let's go prescriptive here instead of descriptive. What can we do better within our families? And in your case, I know you've got children, grown children, grandchildren. How can we encourage our grown children? I'm in a situation where I have 2 grown children. I'll be perfectly blunt with you. They're not bad young people, but I know neither one of them are in church, even though they grew up in church. How can we encourage within our families and then within our church body, because we're told in the New Testament to mentor younger couples, younger people. What can we do practically to impact those people in our lives?
Well, I would encourage them that, first off, one of the things that maybe they don't see is Christ being real in our lives. And so if they can see it real in our lives, and they're going to be hopeful, it's working in your life. So we try and help, parents or young couples to really see how Christ can work in their life, and then they can spread it around to somebody else. So in the church, if they see even one couple get help for their marriage, then that will spread through the rest of the couples in the church over time. So our encouragement to churches is that you don't have to necessarily duplicate us in your church, but if you have at least one couple, if you're the pastor or try and get at least one couple, and encourage older couples that have been married for a while, have gone through things, to try and help mentor the younger couples. So that's one thing, like a practical thing that they can do. The other thing I was thinking about, the idea like leadership, is the leader's probably the one that's going to try and help make sure that there's a plan that's taking place. So in my marriage, I'm going to try and say, okay, I need to come up with a plan to how I'm going to be a spiritual leader in my home. And I need to work on some type of a plan in my head, or ask the Lord for a plan, and then pray that the Lord helps me implement the plan in my marriage and with my children. Yes, dear.
Yeah. You know what, Greg? It just depends on what your situation is. But we've of course, no one has the perfect family, and we see many people whose children have walked away at different levels of walking away from the Lord. And excuse me, we so, as parents, want our children to be so close to the Lord, so intimate with the Lord, so following the Lord. And I really think that, at this point in our lives also, that we need to be that example, that steadfastness, that they're going to see in our lives, that we're not compromising God's word, we're living it, that our children and grandchildren can see that we are living out what we say we believe, and our relationship with them is no matter where they are, we can't control anymore. We can't control, when they're 2, 3, 4, we're pretty much controlling where they are. But when they're older, we can't control that. But we can still love them where they are.
Well, maybe one of the convicting things that we've heard from some young couples coming to see us is they say, well, we wish our parents would come to see you guys, even though the parents, they think they have a really good marriage and they're in church, but the kids are saying they don't really necessarily see it that way. They see that there's, big gaps in there, and the parents just don't think that they need any help. Everything's fine. And so they're just not on the same page then spiritually with them. They just aren't. They think there's something missing. And
Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow are my guests from Healing of the Heart Ministries. We're talking about practicing spiritual formation in your family. So as we're in the home stretch here, give us some practical things. I want to set a scenario a little bit. A couple comes to you, our marriage is okay, or maybe a couple in your church, or like your seminar that you just had in Holly this past weekend, and they come to you and they say our marriage is okay, we're not in trouble, but I'm convicted that we're not practicing spiritual formation, or however they would put it. We're not having devotions together. I don't feel like we're close spiritually. How do you counsel them in practical ways to get started?
Okay, the first thing is to pray. I really think no matter where you are in your spiritual formation as a couple, to pray for what you want to see, and let God do that. But spouses can say to each other, how can I support you in your spiritual life? What are ways that we can develop our faith as a couple? If you ask the other person, or how can I pray for you today? My husband loves it when I pray for him. And we take a prayer walk together and just start praying for your relationship, your family, your children. We can start with that. There's many devotionals. We have a favorite devotional, My Utmost for Its Highest, that we usually read together and talk about. But spiritual formation looks different depending on the stage of life you're in also, because if you have 6 little children running around, your spiritual formation is going to look different than it looks like for my husband and myself, being empty nesters and grandparents. So it's going to flex depending on what your life situation is and what your time in life is. And Greg, honestly, we could spend another session on this whole subject because it's so, there's so much to it, really. There's so much to it. But we want to make sure that our hearts, personally, are the best they can be before God. We're not going to be perfect. We're not going to have a perfect heart, but we can have a good heart. And I think that's a start. And really getting out of ourselves and being able to love our spouse and wanting to spend that time spiritually with them. We had an example of a couple that we stayed with in Colorado Springs when we were in our training. And every night after dinner, they would sit in they were an older couple, they would sit in their chairs and really go through the scriptures together, and of course include anyone who's in their household at the time, which we were. And just watching them was beautiful to me.
And they would reflect on their day of how the Lord had worked in their life. They would sit down and like say, "Oh, how does God work in life?" Say, "Well, I was just thinking about that," and they would give an example.
Yeah.
And that, you can imagine if you had some grandchildren over that were hearing all this from Grandma and Grandpa about how God actually had done something in their life during that specific day. It'd be pretty exciting for them.
What was your favorite part of the day? What did you? What are you thankful for to God today? My husband and I do this. It's it doesn't have to be we're sitting down and reading 4 chapters in the Bible every night, or we have this thing that we have to. It can be so varied, so wonderful. Listening to Christian music together, worshiping the Lord together. Sometimes we'll just be in the car and we'll start praying for people together, or we'll be listening to a Christian song on the car radio, and we're singing that song. And we say, "Oh, we remember, we've been worshiping the Lord in the car." So there's many ways that spiritual formation can take place in your family, in your life, and it's fun, it's rewarding, it draws you into intimacy with Christ.
Oh, that's beautiful. We're going to have to leave it there for the day, for today. But Dee Dee, you're right. We're going to have to do this again because we're just getting started and on this particular topic on spiritual formation in your marriage. By the way, sometime between now and noon, I will post this at WMPC.org. Just click on the homepage, click on Community Forum. It'll be right there. You can listen to it. You can download it. You can encourage others. Maybe you're a grandma living alone, and this doesn't apply to you directly, but you know what? You've got people in your family, you've got people in your neighborhood, you've got people in your church that would benefit from hearing what we've been talking about. So encourage them to go to the website. Again, you can listen or download. And Chuck and Dee Dee, remind our listeners how they can get in touch with you.
Well, they can either call us on our phone at 810-245-7045 or visit us on the internet at healingoftheheart.net or email us at contact@healingoftheheart.net. Or they can always call Greg Bolin, I suppose, too, at WMPC and say, "Hey, how do we get a hold of Chuck and Dee Dee?"
That's right. That's the easiest number to remember, 667-1230, 810-667-1230. I'll pull the website right up, and I can send them to you. Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow, Healing of the Heart Ministries. Our topic today, spiritual formation in your marriage. I think we're scheduled to get together again in a couple weeks. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Good.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. So we do look forward to it. We really thank you, not only for your expertise, but also for your heart to heal families. So thank you so much. And God bless you. Have a great rest of the day and have a great week as well. Love you guys.
All right. Love you too, Greg. Have a great day.